You should all see my window now. When I open a new tab, I often refer to the waffle over here. If you click on the waffle, you'll see there's a number of different applications that you can go to. What we are trying to access is Google Drive. If you click on Google Drive, it will take you to your Google Drive. Now, the reason why Google Drive is an effective tool for organizing your content online, and this is what we're going to look at today, if we upload our content to Google Drive, rather than sharing individual files with learners, we're going to look today at how do we actually share folders with the learners. So you could create a folder called poetry, for example. You'll have to forgive me. I often use examples in English, as I was an English teacher. But you can create folders. So as you can see here, now we are in our folders, and it's as simple as opening this up in my drive and clicking new folder. So now we're going to have a folder that we call distance learning. Create this folder, right? And then double click, and now you are in the folder. To upload files to this folder, you can again click on new, and then you'll see there's file upload and folder upload. Now, folder upload is quite useful because if you have your content on your computer at the moment and it's already organized in folders, if you click folder upload, it will upload everything in those folders and recreate that same folder structure. So if you have, for example, a folder that calls itself school, you can literally upload that folder and everything will go on. Just bear in mind, some of those folders might be quite big by now and might have a lot of information in it. So it will end up using a lot of your data. So if we go to folder upload, it will open up a dialog. And I just need to quickly change again to we want to present the whole screen now so you can see what we're doing. Right. So it will open up a dialog that makes it appear that you can browse your computer with. So if we go to downloads and we click on temp, for example, or let's say e-learning resources, and I say upload, it will now upload everything that is contained within that folder, right? It creates the folder and it uploads the content. So here I've only got two images that are uploaded to this folder. So there we immediately have our folder created for us. If we then want to share the folder with our learners, it's a very simple case of right click on it and you say get shareable link. Sorry, there's another person who wants to join. And we say get shareable link. Now by default, it will tell you that the link sharing is off. All that you need to do, activate link sharing. Now, the next step is very important to take note of. If you are not using a Gmail account, but you're using a Google account within an organization, a number of schools have already gone this route and they have become Google schools already. You need to make sure when you look at your shareable link, we go to our sharing settings, because the sharing settings will then give you the option of deciding how you are going to share it. So in this instance, the default sharing setting for my account, because I'm using a Western Cape Education account, is anyone at Western Cape Education Department with the link can view. What that means is someone has to log in with a Western Cape Education Department account, and then they can view the folder. What we want is we actually want to say anyone with a link, right? So now it means you don't even need a Gmail account. There's nothing other than the link that you need, right? So we say save. And also, for the most part, what we want, and you can consider how you want to do this, we want to make sure that it's set to can view only, because we don't want our learners to change the files and delete the files that we've uploaded. So can view only. That means they can't do anything to the files that are there, right? We say save, and the setting is now saved. Right, just to show you what happens, there's the link. As you can see, this is a very, very long and clumsy link. Remember, you can simply copy it and send it to your learners. We're not going to be talking about how WhatsApp web works today, but if you are using WhatsApp to communicate with your learners, I strongly suggest that you have a look at WhatsApp Web so that you can see how that works, because it makes life a lot easier when sharing websites and links, for example, with people. Right, so we simply copy the link and now we can send it to them. Just to show you quickly what it will look like, I'm now using a guest account. So this is not logged into any Gmail account whatsoever. If I paste the link, or if I try to access that link, it will take me to the Google Drive folder. And within this folder, then obviously I will have access to these files, right? The go live, etc., etc. So these things I can then choose: go live with a webinar. I can open the different the content that's contained within, and it'll take me to this folder, or I can access this one, it'll take me to that folder. Right, so this is how we share files with our learners. And the thing that's good about it is, if I now go back, just to show you how this also works, I go into the e-learning resources, and now I want to create a new folder, right? So we want to have the rainbow grade R books in a separate folder, right? It creates the folder. I now move these files, click and drag. You'll notice it is very similar to what we know, or what we've hopefully already worked with in Windows. If I now go into this one and I reload the page, suddenly there's a folder for me that I can access. And what's also useful, if they are using it on a computer, there's a download all option. They can simply go in that one folder, click on this, and it'll download the files within that. If I access the same folder and I am now using, let's say I'm using a Gmail account, I want to access the same folder, it will look a little bit different. As you can notice, now I've got the other elements. Now it looks a lot more similar to the Google Drive account, or to the Google Drive that I was using, right? So it looks a little bit different. This is when you don't have a Google account at all. And this is what it looks like when you do have a Google account, when you are accessing it. Very important to note, you can also, in the same way, you can then go and share individual files. So it's not only folders, exactly the same process. So let's go in here again, and we right click and we say get shareable link. It does the same thing. Now, the one thing it's important to note, I don't have to actually set these individual files, the sharing permissions of these individual files, because they are contained within a folder that already has certain sharing settings enabled. Because of that, the because of that, the fact that these settings have already been changed, I don't have to go and set that. What I can do then, if I go to a different folder, so let's go into distance learning. Oh, we don't have anything here. Let's take an individual file. For example, we want to share the WCED signature. I can right click and I can share individual files as well. The exact same process. I go and I set up the setting how to view it. If you want to deactivate it, you simply click on that and you turn it off. So if I go into my if I go into my distance learning folder and my e-learning resources, and I decide, but I want to deactivate it, I simply click on that and the sharing is deactivated. So in this way, you can create a folder for your, if you teach multiple grades, let's say you're a high school teacher and you teach grade 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12, you can create different folders for your different classes to access and send them different links. Right, so now I've deactivated this. Just to show you quickly, if I refresh now, if I want to access it again, it'll tell me I need to sign in because I can't access this thing, it doesn't exist anymore. Right, so now it'll expect me, the open folder can no longer be viewed because I've removed the sharing rights. Let me just get back onto the right. Are there any questions around the Google Drive and how we use it effectively? One thing I do want to point out, and this is something we need to be very mindful of in these times. If we take the Rainbow Grade R books as an example, which I can now share with my learners, one of the big problems that we are going to have to be careful of and we need to be mindful of is the physical size of these things. This is the 33 megabyte file and this is the 32 megabyte file. If you're going to send it to your learners, be mindful of the fact that the majority of our learners access content using a cell phone. What will happen if you send it to them, typically, and this doesn't have to happen unless they understand how their cell phone works effectively, when they open it, they will download the whole 33 megs of this book, while you might only want them to access 1 or 2 pages. Typically, what could happen then, the next day you expect them to access it again. Unless they understand how their cell phone works, they could very well end up downloading the whole thing again. So be mindful of what you share with your learners and how you share it with your learners. Video content, for example, again, it's a very data-intensive procedure. So we need to be mindful of how we share things and what we are sharing, and if there are ways to share smaller, more bite-sized bits of data with people, rather than sharing the whole thing. So again, be careful of that we are not overextending their resources when we are doing this. Now, the next bit I'm going to do very quickly, because if you paid attention, this should be pretty straightforward. If we are now creating our e-learning resource, right? So we've got our shareable link. We want to activate it. We don't want it, that setting more, anyone with a link. So this is all things that we did. Typically what we can do now, because this becomes a very long link, then it makes sense perhaps to use a bit.ly. Right, so now we open up bit.ly, we create one, and we simply paste our long URL in there. As you can see, this is let me just zoom in a little bit. It was a very long URL that I entered, but now it simply gets shortened to this. We can change it if we want to change it, the custom back off, if we want to change it to something else. But for this instance, we're not going to expect them to remember it. It's something we want to share with them once off, or we can call it whatever. Let's say I'm going to use my initials, JVN, and we say distance learning resources. Right, so there we've got it. We say save. And now, rather than having to send that other link to them, I can copy this and I can send this link to them, which they will then access, and then in future, for future reference, if they remember my initials and distance learning resources, they can access it in that way. So this is how we put all of these things together in order to use the Google Drive and bit.ly together effectively.